Hey y'all, it's Vekevia and welcome back to Real Life Planning, where we turn real life choices into real life wealth one step at a time. Now, today's topic is one I get asked all the time, usually in a quiet, slightly guilty tone, like someone confessing something serious, right? And the question is, can I become a property manager if I still live in the house? And the follow-up question is always, does that even make sense? And my answer is yes. I mean, people are doing it, and depending on your life, it can be very smart. As a matter of fact, if I were doing this at this point in life, I would probably do the same thing. So today we're breaking this all the way down. No judgment, no fluff, just real life logic. So we ask ourselves, like, why does this question even come up? So let's be honest about this. Most people who are house hacking are not trying to become full-time landlords or on-call maintenance techs or, hey, can you fix this real quick person at 9:47 at night? No. Not trying to do that at all. Like, especially this is the case if you're, let's say, maybe your 30s, your 40s, or older, whatever have you. You're working a real job. Maybe you have kids, you're raising them, you're planning a wedding, maybe, or you're trying to manage a household. I mean, you name it. None of those things like add up to having that extra time. It's just tired and you don't actually want to do that. So you could be thinking, I want the financial benefits, but I don't want this to become my entire personality. And that is valid. House hacking is supposed to reduce your stress, right? Like reduce housing costs. We talked about that before on many of the other podcasts, build wealth, all of those kinds of things, not turn you into the unpaid front desk, if you will, of your own house. So, yes, this question comes up because people want boundaries, right? Like people need boundaries and not because they're lazy. It's just reality, you know? So, does it make sense? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The long answer, I would say, is it really does depend on what you're reading and, what you want your role to be. Now, some people might, if you're listening to this and you're like all in, maybe you are Mr. Fix It or Mrs. Fix It or whatever have you, great. But we're just talking about and giving space for individuals who that might not be the case for them. Not maybe they wish it was, but they just aren't there yet, or they don't aspire to at all. So here's a key thing that many people miss. A property manager is not just for absentee landlords, right? You could be involved. A property manager, I want you to think of it as more about systems and separation. So if you're renting, let's say maybe you're renting a basement, an ADU, a separate unit in a duplex or multiple rooms, whatever have you. A property manager can be very beneficial for you. They can collect your rent, handle maintenance requests, enforce lease terms, be the bad guy when needed, just all of those kinds of things so that you don't have to. So yes, there are people who are absolutely doing, especially when, they're professionals or parents or people who value privacy. People don't want awkward, like hallway conversations about late rent. I mean, that could be a little bit strange, I would say. So the real reason I would say that people even consider this is just, I guess, let me say the quiet parts aloud, really, like out loud. And sometimes you don't want to be the roommate plus the landlord and the person sharing the kitchen. It's another layer of protection or safety or just, like we said earlier, a boundary. Because now it's like, are we friends? It creates confusion. Are we business partners? Like, why are your dishes still in the sink? Do I have the right to say that, et cetera? Especially if we're talking about something where you don't have a completely separate unit from your renters. And suddenly you're like negotiating lease terms and cleaning habits all at the same time. And so a property manager essentially creates emotional distance that is very valuable. Like that emotional distance is huge. And for some personalities, that distance is like literally worth every single penny. Let's think about how the numbers work. Let's talk money, okay? Because this is real life planning. Typically, a property manager, their fees are going to be anywhere from 8 to 12% of the rent for long-term rentals. So let's say if the basement rents for $1,200, your management is 10%, and that's $120 a month. So your net rent becomes just over 1,000, like 1,080. So now here's a real question that you would ask yourself in this situation. It's like, is that $120 worth it? What is it worth to you? Not having to chase rent, not handling maintenance requests, not enforcing lease terms, or not being the mean landlord, if you will. And for some people, when you answer that question, you'll say, absolutely. And then, maybe you're like, I would rather self manage and keep every dollar. There are two sides to that. Some people might want to just keep every dollar. And neither of those answers is actually wrong. I would say the way to make it work, just like a smart, realistic way or different ways that people might go about this to make it work while you're living in the property is like, okay, let's say one option would be a hybrid management type situation, if you will. Now, obviously, you need to work this out with whatever property manager you're going with. But in that situation where you have the hybrid management, you are handling the showings, maybe choosing the tenants, especially if it's going to be in close proximity. Maybe you want to be a bit more involved. Whereas you might hand off certain things like collecting rent or handling maintenance or making sure the lease is enforced, those kinds of things. So that'll help create control and boundaries, right? So that's one option. Another option is you might just literally only have the manager for one unit only and you self-manage, a roommate. But you use a property manager for the basement unit, an ADU or second unit, like maybe some other area. And that works beautifully, really, like if you think about a duplex or split level homes. And so another option could be having a manager after the first year. So many people will self-manage while they live there and then they bring in a manager once they move. So that way the transition to a full rental is smooth and it's hands off, if you will. So let's go on the other side of that. So we said neither is, necessarily bad. It depends on how you want to manage things and what boundaries you want in place and what you want to have to deal with. But there might be circumstances where it doesn't necessarily make as much. So let's be real. A property manager probably does not make sense in certain situations if you're renting just one room. The rate is already tight. So that 10% is literally going to make this either flat or negative or just, bare minimum, or you can get anything out of it. So the fees basically are wiping out the benefit. Or if you want full control, obviously that would make any sense. Or if you're like literally comfortable setting the boundaries yourself, and this is just paying for something you're finally doing yourself, then does that make any sense? You have to weigh the cost. Also, not every property manager wants to manage a house where the owner lives on site. Actually, a situation happened with someone recently. The house hacked, and the property manager that they were talking to was like, oh, no, 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 you don't manage properties for homes where someone is living in a house hacking. So that really is more so at the property manager level and comfort. So that's definitely something you want to ask. So this requires like upfront transparency, clear expectations, and a manager who is experienced with small properties. That's huge. You need to ask that. The bigger financial picture, if you will, the part that I really want you to hear is that house hacking is a tool, not a personality test. So like you aren't going to get bonus points for doing everything yourself or being all stressed out or burnt out. The goal is you want lower housing costs, stable cash flow. You're trying to build long-term wealth, likely, and a life that you actually enjoy. So it does require you thinking about it. Like, what is it that you want to build so that you make sure that the things that you put in place are actually leading towards the goal that you want. That's saying a lot, but we'll leave that at that. So sometimes paying for support is like the smartest financial decision you can make. Just like when people might hire a financial planner, they hire a CPA or something, they don't, maybe they don't all the way understand taxes. Sometimes, getting support is just a thing to do, especially if it keeps you consistent and safe. And then it's kind of like, well, what price tag could you put on that? So yes, people are using property managers while house hacking. And yes, it can make sense. And no, you're not doing it wrong if you want help. The best strategy is essentially one that fits your lifestyle and protects your energy and keeps you moving forward. All right, that's it for today. And remember, your money should support your life, not stress your life. Take this one step this week toward the future that you want, and I'll be right there walking with you. This is Real Life Planning, where we turn real numbers into real possibilities. I'm your host, Vekevia, and remember, wealth is built in real life by real people making real moves. I'll see you on the next episode.